it's Forrest. I'm going to make you a really, really quick video because there's a lot to do and not a whole lot of time. The next collection that is coming out will be The Return of the Fae Folk and Otherworldly Creatures, which I'm super excited about. I got some new characters to introduce to you this year, but I'm also going to bring back not all, but some of last year's favorite fairies. I won't be able to bring back all the ones I want to because there are definitely some ingredients that are simply unattainable. Some of the vendors that we work with either closed down or discontinued some of the key ingredients and they can't be replaced, which is a mega bummer. And reformulating it wouldn't work out. It's just not the same. So Aziza will not be able to come back, which is a huge mega bummer, but I'm going to make you some new cool stuff. So let me talk to you a little bit about how the Fae Folk and Otherworldly Creatures collection happened. I am on a podcast with some friends, and my friends and I discussed in the springtime of last year the folklore and legend around Fae. And it was an area that I really hadn't explored very much, but that conversation on our podcast, which incidentally is called Pagan Gumbo Podcast, just got me fired up. It just got me really inspired, and I wanted to research different legends and ideas around the Fae, and particularly the little people and otherworldly nature spirits and humanoid folk who occur not just in Western European folklore around the British Isles, but elsewhere. For example, Aziza, as I mentioned earlier, is a little person who is a figure in the legendary goings-on of Benin on the continent of Africa, and it was very interesting for me to find out about them, about the many huni who are in the stories of Hawaii, and so forth. So it was neat to kind of explore outside of what we traditionally think of, or what we commonly think of as the Fae Folk. So some of the more popular ones from last year, Lampade. So Lampade was particularly gratifying for me. This is a nymph who is an attendant of the goddess Hecate, and has a particularly almost unique power to travel between the realms very freely without permission, in a similar way to psychopomps akin to Mercury or Hermes. The Hecate and her lampades can move from the underworld to the material plane, to Mount Olympus or heaven, as it may be. So that freedom of movement and that empowerment, and also Hecate's general mystique, as she is both a lunar goddess, a triple goddess, a goddess of creation and destruction, both nurturing and fierce. Her lampades as a figure to address in the Fae Folk and Otherworldly Creatures were really fun for me. I liked making that kind of dark, chthonic, but also sweet, because there's a nod to the offerings that one might make to Hecate and her lampades. So I enjoy that one a lot. I like how it came out, and I liked the creation process of it. Menehune, which is one of the, it's a Fae type civilization that is said to occupy the Hawaiian Islands. So notes of macadamia and coconut were kind of an obvious thing to go with, but also I wanted it to be very much about where they reside. They reside within the forests of the Hawaiian Islands, and so the atmospheric woodland humid aspect of it is there too. And you probably already know I have a very special place in my heart for the Hawaiian Islands, so that was a lot of fun to put together, and it means a lot to me. Oh, faux filet, or faux filet, that is the Cajun version of a will-o'-the-wisp. The mysterious lights that happen to occur around swampy areas or marshlands. They are known to lure people to an untimely demise, basically by luring you into the swamp to drown, but very mysterious. And in this Southern Eastern American version, because I also have a real strong connection with Southeastern United States, particularly New Orleans, I wanted it to smell like the South, like the sultry South in summertime. So seductive and otherworldly, but also kind of homey, especially if you're familiar at all with what it smells like on a summer night in the South. So there's gardenia and honeysuckle, which I was careful to make sure smelled authentic and not soapy. That was important to me. I put together an accord of muscadine, which is, I don't want to call it grape because then that calls to mind like grape soda, grape candy. Not at all. It's a purple grape that you bite into that's ripe and fresh. And muscadine is kind of a wild version of that occurs around the South. So that note in there, because it's unique and fresh and fruity, but because it's really unlike anything else, especially that I've experienced in perfumery. So that was fun to play with. Kelpie. Kelpie was largely influenced by my friend Sherry. Hi, Sherry. She is particularly interested in this otherworldly creature who can transform between humanoid and horse forms, also resides close to water, and also attempts to drown people. Again, the Fae are... My friends who engage the Fae in their magical practice often warn me that they are not to be messed with, and the Kelpie is a good reason why. That one was fun to put together in an aesthetic olfactory way because I wanted it to be aquatic but not oceanic, and I wanted it to have that animalic, something reminiscent of a horse, of the equine ferocity and wildness. So creating a balance between, let's make it a little bit horsey and a little bit aquatic. It's different, and people tend to like it. I'm pleasantly surprised by how much people enjoyed that one. And one more I'll talk about, which was absolutely the runaway hit of last year, was Pixie. Now, Pixie was almost easy because I went back to the memories of what I thought fairies were when I was little and what I hoped they were when I was little. And so these diminutive, winged, beautiful women who would occupy beautiful, semi-wild spaces where you might have crabapple trees blossoming, and you might have overgrown grasses, and you might have wildflowers and fairy rings, and you're sort of tempted to step within the fairy rings, but you know you're not supposed to. So that whole mood was what I wanted to recreate with Pixie, and I think it worked. You guys certainly gave it a lot of love, for which I am tremendously grateful. I focused not only on the atmosphere of being in an apple orchard that is not producing apples yet, but is still in the apple blossom phase of the year. An aldehydic sparkle effect, which, I mean, it needed to sparkle. It's a Pixie. And finally, I went with a nod to what offerings would be made. Similar to in the Lampade blend, I wanted to have this interaction between ourselves as mundane human beings and these otherworldly creatures. So the offerings were milk and honey, bread, sweet bread in particular, and I think it worked. So I'm psyched about that one, and that one's coming back. Yes, I could get everything for that, and it's going to come back in exactly its form from last year, so I didn't have to mess with it at all, and I'm psyched. Whew, so yay! I hope you guys like it as much as I do. And I'm going to give you a really, really quick peek into something that I'm kind of creating alongside it. There's a project that I've started putting together, which has to do with sacred space, home, family, and the notion that we have these incredibly passionate connections between us as friends and as family members and as just members of community, even if we've never met, even if we've never met in person or online or anything. And because we're in a stage right now during this coronavirus lockdown where we have to be so distant from each other, I'm noticing that there are people who are making a real concerted effort to stay connected, and that warms my heart. So whenever I get to be on a video chat with somebody, whenever somebody makes a point of saying, hey, I'm going to run to the store, do you need anything? And they get to go put on the mask instead of me having to do it and take time off from work. I mean, there is a sense of community, and I happen to live in a place where community is a big deal. So I'm lucky that way. But I'm loving watching some very special, very wonderful people flex their muscles a little bit, rise to the occasion, and make us all feel a little bit less alone. So I want to create an ongoing collection around that notion. It's going to be small pieces at a time, maybe 2 or 3 fragrances at a time, created around that theme, with the magical intention of togetherness, closeness, community, unity, and some relief from this isolation that we're going through. So I'm excited about that one too. Can't give you too many dates on when those will happen because it's very much a work in progress. It's very much just in the idea stage right now, but I'm excited to show it to you. So anyway, thanks for listening. I hope you have a wonderful week, and thank you for your continued support and encouragement. Bye, guys.